See, that's how it feels to play Knight, my favorite killer in Dead by Daylight. He's a perfect hybrid of map awareness and anti-loop, and greatly rewards killer players who can read survivors like an open book. But lots of killers check those boxes. I mean, Doctor alone is a god at all that. So what makes Knight so special? Well, for me, it's that it's really easy to put survivors into no-win scenarios. So if you want to do this, or this, or this, or this, Lamau. Stick around as I explain why I love Knight and how to make him work for you. So if you ask any serious Dead by Daylight player, they'll tell you Knight is mid, B tier, whatever. But why? Well, there's a few reasons. For one thing, his powers make it really easy to camp a hook, which everyone hates. Additionally, it can be hard to know where and when to use his power. Wait, I guess I should explain his power. The Guardia Campagna lets you deploy a guard. A guard will patrol wherever you tell him to go, and if a survivor enters his area of effect and there is nothing blocking line of sight, the guard will hunt the survivor. Halfway through the hunt, a horn will blow. If the survivor being chased makes it back to the flag at the start of the hunt, after the horn goes off, the guard pursuing them will instantly disappear. Or you can ignore all that and just order a guard to break a wall, pallet, or generator. Knight has 3 guards, but he only gets 1 at a time. They come out in the following order. The Carnifex, who does orders the best. He breaks things very nearly as fast as the killer can, which makes him actually extremely complicated. I'll get to that later. The Assassin, who hunts the best. He moves almost as fast as the Knight himself, and when he lands a hit, it applies the deep wound status effect, which can waste more of a survivor's time. And finally, the Jailer, who patrols the best. His patrol movement speed is the fastest, lasts the longest, and his vision cone is 50% bigger than any other guard. On to the complicated parts. So, Carney, why are you so weird? First of all, Carnifex damages generators faster than even the killer. Oh, also, unlike killers, the guards can damage the generator while it's being repaired. This will force the survivor off the generator, which is great for proccing perks like Deadman Switch, and can even make it regress while blocked by Deadman Switch. And okay, pause it. So, here's the thing. In the scenario I described there, doesn't that mean you want a guard who takes a long time to damage the generator? Like, if you didn't pack Deadman Switch, that means the 6 seconds it takes Jailer or Assassin to damage the generator is 6 seconds survivors can't work the generator, which is way better than Carnifex, who does it in 2 seconds. But since Carney can break walls and pallets fast, always use him for that stuff. Also, despite Assassin being the hunt expert, Carnifex's hunt lasts 24 seconds. That's twice as long as the other guards. So why the heck is the Assassin the hunt guy? It seems like if you have pallet issues, have Carney break them. But if it's a gen, you want Assassin to do it so you can cycle the Jailer and Carney in faster and... Okay, back up. Like, this stuff is important, but remembering all these fringe cases for using your power? I mean, they matter, eventually, but we're here to learn basics. So let's talk about the 3 most common times your power will create no-win scenarios for survivors. Scenario 1. Sick corner combos. Anytime a survivor is leading you into a corner, they are signing their own death warrant. Point the guard one way and point yourself the other, and you will win. Some survivors are so conditioned by how to handle loops that they'll just stand there and die when you counterplay them this way, such as in this clip, where I hit a survivor once because the corner isolated them, and then the survivor chooses to stay in that corner instead of leaving. Logically, they know they should leave, but instinctive monkey brain says to stay in the pallet. Next scenario. Scenario 2. The shack. When getting looped in the shack, you need only put a guard outside between the window and non-pallet door. This will force survivor to abandon the shack, or, much more likely, stay in the shack, take a hit, and maybe even use up the pallet. It's kinda hard to explain exactly why this works, but it's a similar case of player conditioning and behavior manipulation, which is the opposite of the next scenario. Scenario 3, the Aerial Rave. Ranged killers, compare your lives to mine and weep. No longer are you the sole master of the vertical domain. See here, in Mother's Dwelling, the survivor is working the upstairs generator. They expect me to go all the way around, and by the time I get there, they'll make some progress and then leave the generator. Or I can just drop a guard down here, the guard will float on up to chase them, and while that's happening, I'm walking around as usual, forcing the survivor to either abandon the generator and take a hit from me, or stay on the generator and take a hit from the guard. See, guards can use verticality. No survivor thinks about verticality. This gives Knight insane literal 3D brain plays in an otherwise 2D game. Now there's one thing in common with all the scenarios listed above. They're all situations that very experienced survivors have mastered. This means if you play Knight and play the ways I've described, you'll win a lot. Well, no, if they know you're good, they'll find a way to outthink the flowchart I've just given you. But it can take time for them to learn you're good, and it'll take time to force them to respect you. And in that time, you can do a lot of damage. For example, say a survivor is looping you near a pallet. Classic situation we've all been in. Well, with Knight, you could just drop a guard right about here and watch the survivor run away from the tile. Oh, I forgot to cover add-ons. So the example I just gave there, yeah, it'll go your way 100% of the time if you bring the map of the realm. This brown add-on boosts the guard's vision cones enough so that once a survivor realizes you're using your power and abandons the tile, the guard will still catch them. Look, I know they're not cones, they're vision radiuses, but I've played a lot of Metal Gear, so I'm just gonna always call them cones. Back to the show. You see, I consider the map the most important add-on for Knight. Being able to land a hit in every single pallet loop is just amazing. Sure, the guards can't see through the chain link fence on Springwood, but they can see up and down and all around. As for your other add-on, well, I've heard talk of people suggesting sub-mains, like you might want add-ons that boost Assassin or Jailer, but personally I believe Knight shines when all the homies are juiced, and to give them their juice, you want either a gritty lump or horse meat. See, the Knight leans into a core belief of mine, that we all have to support each other. The guards support the Knight, and the Knight supports them. Just like how you can support me by clicking all of the buttons under this video. The gritty lump increases the speed of guards on patrol by 9%. On paper, this seems mediocre, until you realize it means there are virtually no gaps in their patrol route due to how fast they'd move back and forth through it. Alternatively, you could take the horse meat, which extends the hunt time for 4 seconds. So look, just play Knight with lump and map, and notice how many times a guard gets this close to hitting a survivor. If it's happening a lot, consider changing out the lump for horse meat. If you really don't want to use those, I can see some real movement advantages coming from the Greaves. They give you haste for 6 seconds after summoning the Jailer, or the Hammer, which slows down survivors for 15 seconds after they escape a hunt. But hey, we now have guards figured out and the add-ons turned. Why are we still losing generators? Oh, we need perks. You and your guards exist to go where you need to go and win whatever fight you find. But how do you know where to go? I'll tell you. Surveillance. Surveillance is an absolutely critically necessary perk on Knight. This perk makes it so that when a generator starts regressing, it turns white, and when it gets touched by a survivor, it turns yellow for 8 to 16 seconds. This gives you the ability to start a chase with one survivor, turn around, see a survivor has touched a generator you just flushed out, and send a guard over to put pressure on them from both ends, letting you chase 2 people at once very reliably. No matter what else you do, I promise you this perk is the best for Knight. So if you're gonna play Knight, you may as well spend a few bucks on the Saw DLC just for this. I also find Thrilling Tremors incredibly useful for Knight, mostly because it lets you know what generators have survivors on them every time you down a survivor. Basically, you want to combine this with surveillance to obtain a ton of map information at all times. You want to look at the generators and never see them red or yellow. You want white power. You want to look at the generators and never see them red or yellow. You want to always see them as some third color that would be incredibly appealing to a medieval crusader from Hungary. Those aside, I also get a ton of value personally from Jolt, but a friend of mine strongly recommended Oppression instead. Either way, your third perk should probably be something to damage generators effortlessly. You may also want to slot in Eruption or Merciless Storm, maybe a Scourge Hook. Personally, I use Deadman Switch, as evidenced earlier in the video. This is also the one that I take off and replace with Lightborn if I see more than 2 flashlights in the lobby. So given all of that, does Knight deserve to be considered mid? Well, I don't know. Tier lists should generally be used to determine if a character has tools for everything, and Knight has quite a few weaknesses. He's very add-on reliant, but those add-ons are common, so it's not like he'll ever not have them. Survivors who understand his kit can really easily avoid his most common mind games. For example, I like to put a guard down in front of a hook to proxy camp it, but smart survivors will run straight through the vision cone, pull the guard, and unhook their friend anyway, since the guard disappears if you're in the middle of an unhook animation. But if the guard is still floating, they won't. It's complicated. The extra vision and hearing guards grant also makes them great for searching for hatch, but make it easy for me to overlook spots since I'll think I already sent my guard over there and didn't find anything. The Knight is a strange killer. He's one in which you're juggling an MMO party all by yourself, but he's one where if you can utilize all his tools, I feel he's kind of the second strongest killer in the game, behind only Nurse. But hey, I could be full of it. In any case, if you're thinking of playing Knight or having difficulty playing against Knight, I hope you use this video to think about the killer a bit differently, to come up with new ways to approach his tools and hopefully have a much better time. Unlike this guy.